Hey everybody and welcome back. And today is probably going to be one of the easiest crafts I've ever done. And this is me seeing if it really is that easy. And what I'm talking about is making fields, wheat fields with a doormat, with a freaking doormat. Right? I've seen a few other crafting channels do it, and according to them this goes lightning fast. So if this goes as fast as they say it will, we're going to do the traditional way that everyone's showing, and then maybe we'll think up a way to spice it up and do something a little cooler than just having it on the ground, maybe a way to add something to it. So let's get to it. Let's see how easy it really is to make a wheat field from like a coconut husk doormat. As I mentioned, I'd seen this on a few other crafting channels, and I really wanted to see if you could make wheat fields that easy. So I got out a razor knife, and I started cutting. Now, I'm going to let you know this right now. Do it from the back side. I tried it here from the front side, and it took a couple passes, way too many passes, honestly, and it created a huge mess. So after a couple times of going over the top, I realized to cut it from the backside. Cutting it from the backside made it a lot easier. And it's insane. As I was cutting this, I'm like, this can't be this easy. This really can't be this easy, can it? And I started to think, well, it's not, because this is so hard to cut through, before my boneheaded self realized I should have flipped this over and started cutting from the backside where the rubber was. And it's right about this point that I start to realize that I could flip it over, like I said, and just cut it from the backside. So that's what I do. I just flipped it over and started cutting. Now, I should have taken like a white marker and a ruler so I got a little bit of a straighter cut here, but at the same point I figured to myself, who cares if it's a little wobbly? Like, wheat fields probably will have a little wobble and wobble in them and not be perfectly straight. Perfectly straight does look nice and symmetrical to the human eye, but it doesn't have to be. So with that said, I just wanted to see what kind of shapes I could make here. And I think I went with 2 squares and a rectangle. And I almost cut it from that side, and then I realized what I was doing. So I flipped it back over the mat, and you're going to see here from the rubber side, it's a quick cut. I mean, real fast cut. Now, this is the mess that cutting it from the furry side caused. And really, yeah, definitely sucked cleaning this up. I had to get the vacuum out and everything, to vacuum up everything, and then get a little Swiffer to Swift it up. So it was that quick. I was done that fast, and to me that was too short of a craft. So what I decided to do here was that I would make some plowed fields, either freshly cleared fields here or ones that have been freshly planted. And all I did for this was I just grabbed out some Ready Core foam, and I cut out 3 about even sizes, and as always I just covered them in black Mod Podge here before going to the next step. as I was painting this up with the black Mod Podge, it kind of hit me that this reminded me very much of a low-level adventure. One that I thought would work perfect with this kind of terrain, and that is Onkegs. Believe it or not, many farmers in the lore like having Onkegs nearby, but obviously don't like them because they're a menace. But their tunnels and what they do leaves great fertile soil. And my thought was, I was starting to get this all set up, was what if the adventurers or players came upon a small farming village, community, or just like a plantation, ranch house, something like that, where they were in need of help because an adult Onkeg had moved in a little too close and it was ruining the harvest. My thought came, well, hey, we've now got the wheat fields and we're doing these abandoned plowed fields here, right? So why don't we just start crafting up this idea of this adventure as we make this? So my thought was, I'll do 3 of these, and you can do more because these did go pretty quickly, but I'm like, I'll do 3 because I want to indicate that maybe they had got some plowing done, some harvest had started, and as they were harvesting, the Onkeg appeared. And they were in trouble, so they're calling on the adventurers. At this step here, we're going to do what you've seen me do in a few other videos, and we're just going to put down some watered PVA glue. You can do the mixtures you like, 50-50, 2-to-1. I went probably a 2-to-1 on this one. I wanted it a little bit goopier than normal, so it didn't flow too far. And then we're going to cover this with a layer of coffee grounds, because coffee grounds will give us an amazing look of tilled earth. And if we're going to be doing an Onkeg adventure at a farmland, tilled earth is the look we're going to be going for here. So like I said, just get these guys all nicely covered here with a good covering of, I preferred goopy PVA glue. But once you've got it covered in a nice goopy PVA glue, just dump on coffee grounds. Everywhere. Just dump it everywhere. Everywhere you can. Be just as generous with that as you can. Be as liberal as possible with it. You just want to slap it down there. And then you can see me, I kind of push it down and grate it with my fingers so that there's not too many bumps. Because, again, I want this to look a little bit flatter for the next part, which is we're going to do those little bumps that you see in fields for where they planted the rows of crops. And maybe that's how this Onkeg woke up. Maybe because these farmers really like the fertile soil, which coffee grounds look like really good fertile soil, right? Maybe the problem here is that they really liked this fertile soil these Onkegs were making, but they didn't do any culling of the herd, so to speak. They didn't decide to call in any local adventurers to get rid of a few of them here or there and keep the population at a reasonable thing and keep them away from people. So maybe that's what's going on here. Is they plowed these fields, they woke up these Onkegs, and these Onkegs are attacking the area in the village, and the players are now here to stop that. The players are now going to try and stop this Onkeg incursion that's occurring. As you can see again here, we're going to go back to our project after talking about these Onkegs here. Slather this stuff on. You can see me doing this right here. This process here maybe took 5 minutes of prep work before actually filming began. So, about 5 minutes to make the probably 2/5. Probably like 2/5. To be honest, probably 2 parts water to 5 parts glue, that mixture I'm making. But that's about it. I just got that ready, and then I have this thing I've made that's just wrapped in plastic wrap, and it's a big styrofoam cube from something I got out of a thing that I use for when I'm doing any gluing stuff that I'm worried glue might drip onto it and get stuck. And I've just been rotating this to show you the actual time it takes to do this. I figured normally I would speed this up to ×2, but I figured I would show you guys today because the wheat field project part went so fast. I would show you some of this stuff in real time and how long it takes, because honestly, making these empty fields, your longest wait is going to be the black Mad Podge mixture that we make, and the glue drying. The glue drying is honestly the longest part of this entire project, and when it's finished, they look really nice, but obviously that's why you're here, to see why they look nice, and how this is one of the easiest crafts I've ever seen, because, again, it was so quick, I made the second part of the project just for this video. So let's keep going here and talking about our Ankeg incursion. What kind of farming village do we have? Did this farming village pop up? Is it a village at all? Is it just a single farmhouse? Is wheat their primary source here? Probably. That's why we've got these wheat mats, right? Is this what's bringing them here? Is that what's going to make them want to live here? Are they a village? Are they a single house? We're just going to think about like these little things. These little subtle things help encourage us, okay? Because why would the players be coming here? Are they the farmhouse that's on the outskirts of the village that asked for help, so that's why they went? Or is this village itself, like everybody here grows some wheat and other vegetables, and these Ankegs have been here forever? I love these little like questions on what is going on when we make adventures like this, because it can help you as a DM flush it out. As you can see here now, I'm being pretty generous here. I am just doing a nice thick bead of glue first, and then I'm going to sprinkle coffee grounds over top of these rows, and we're going to do this on one, and then off camera I do it to the other ones just to save a little bit of time here. But no matter how many of these you're creating, it's going to take the same amount of time. So if you want a bunch of these, just cut up an entire sheet of Ready Core foam into like squares and rectangles, and buy like some cheap dollar store coffee. I normally tell you to use used coffee that you've then re-dried up, but you can go for fresh, unused coffee. Just use it right from the dollar store, that cheapo stuff. Once you're done and it dries up, you're going to see a little divot in there because glue likes to like in on itself. Just do a second bead of glue after it's all dried and put another layer of coffee grounds down, and that's going to give you that nice rounded bump that you see in like actual farm fields. And as you're doing that, just think up how you want to place this for your Ankeg adventure. If you're doing an Ankeg, because you don't have to. You could do this with a scarecrow, right? You could have a scarecrow monster in the field that is hiding amongst a couple other real scarecrows and just attacking farmers. But think about like what kind of adventure you're thinking about putting this farmland into, and what kind of stuff you can get to it. Like I said, I immediately thought Ankeg. Nothing screams to me farmland adventure like an Ankeg does. And they're just so cool. Like if you read the 5e 2014 Monster Manual or any of the real Monster Manual editions that have Ankegs, they give you a ready baked adventure in their description. It's amazing. I'm telling you, you're gonna love just doing that. So here I whipped out a little bit of my tacky glue. If you've ever noticed, I did change the tacky glues container to an Elmer's like glue container because it just distributes easier. But I'm gonna put a little bit of tacky glue on the sides here and add some reindeer moss because I think that's gonna look really nice and really good here. And it's gonna help define, and in my opinion, it helps define this as like farmland, used farmland or usable farmland. Now, if you're going for a little bit of a grim dark setting, like say you're doing this in a Grim Hollow setting, or you're doing this in the Drakkenheim setting by the Dungeon Dudes, go for the more yellowy reindeer moss, you know, the one that looks a little bit more decayed, a little bit older, a little bit more weathered. That'll give you that like that old farmland look. And then you could put, even if you wanted to, like an actual scarecrow, like build a scarecrow and just make one. I probably should have thought of that while I was doing this and made a scarecrow to put out in the field, but you know, I wasn't at that part of my thinking. I was still on like, you imagine just standing on this ground and the players are looking around the fields trying to survey to see if they can find this giant insectoid monster that's called an Ankeg. And then it bursts out from something like this underneath them, or the ground gives out from them and they fall into the tunnels below it.
and now they're in tunnels below the farmland hunting down an Ankeg. And if you look into the lore of Ankegs, which is really cool, you'll see that they don't burrow in like curving tunnels. They kind of just go in straight lines through the earth, and they create soft, tilled, fertile earth. And I can't remember if that's through their droppings or just like the secretions they create or whatnot, but you could see why maybe the farmers are something else. Maybe they've called in because they know the Ankeg population's getting bad and they went looking for the players. Not them specifically, or maybe them in specific, who knows. But they went to the players because like, hey, we need you to cull some of the Ankegs coming up because, well, they're getting out of hand and our farmland is prospering from them, but too many of them and no one's going to prosper. So as you can see here, I am still just sticking on the reindeer moss, and I'm not really too like trying to make it perfect or like only this height or whatnot. I'm just going with whatever, and I am going back over it though and taking my thumb and making sure that the moss is sticking to the side of this, because I do want it to stick to the side there, because I really do want a nice look on this. Now, if you don't like this part, if you'd like, hey, I don't want any reindeer moss, this project is done for you and you are set. In fact, what I would recommend is like go to your local game store and maybe buy an Ankeg mini that you could paint up real quick, or one that's already pre-painted if you're just not that confident in your painting skills. Though if you'd like to learn, I do have a video on how to do a quick table ready speed paint. So as you can see here, I'm trying not to have my big clumsy hands in the way, but I am just taking any pieces of reindeer moss I can find that I'm just taking out of a little bag here and tearing into little pieces, or if they're already ready, and just sticking it to that tacky glue. And then double checking it by just giving it a quick tap, and it looks like everything is looking nice. Yeah, I'm liking the way that looks. Let's just get this last side done. Now again, if you like it where it's just like that, see right there, it looks like it's open to the road, ready to go, you're set. But I kind of like I said, the reindeer moss creating the border and just letting everything look nice and boarded in, and it's just so cool. Now, I think you guys have got the gist on this, and I think now is the perfect time to just let you think about what you'd like to see next to your wheat fields, because you can have half a dozen wheat fields done in 5 or 10 minutes with that rug trick, and then within 3 to 4 hours you could have dozens of these empty fields done, because the longest part of this project was glue drying. That is literally the longest part, guys. So think of what kind of adventure your players can get into in a field. Are they being chased by velociraptors? Is there an insane farmer trying to get them? Are you going to go with what I suggested and have an Ankeg after them? Let me know in the comments below, guys. And maybe check out a few of our other videos as you do this, because we love to show you guys some of these weird crafts we got and the adventures you can come up with them. The normal delicate smells of the McPhee farm were drowned out by the hideous musk of the Ankeg in front of you. It roared, claws snapping in the air. It had disrupted the McPhee's harvest this year. Without it, you knew that the local pie contest couldn't go down. And this, for your friend Jeremiah the Toad, was unacceptable. Now you fought to the death. There you have it, guys. I honestly can't believe how quick these were to make. Just, I have like a half a dozen here and still some rug left. It took me all 5-10 minutes to make it at the most. And I do like these little empty fields, plowed fields that we made here. I think they're really going to look great in a farm area or like local community where you just need like the house to have a little
plowed garden next to it or something like that. I think it's really going to work. And two, this whole project just required one of these rugs and a razor knife. And for this part, all you really needed was coffee grounds, glue, and Ready Core foam. The reindeer moss too helped there on the edge, but you really don't even need that reindeer moss. It's great. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. I really hope that this simple little thing inspires you to go out and just make some wheat fields for your next game. Maybe run an on-keg adventure. You could put a scarecrow in these things. Like I said, the simplicity of the craft does not determine the elaborate adventure you can create with it, guys. So as always, I really hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, leave me a comment. Let me know what kind of adventures you'd run in a wheat field area, or if you'd even have an adventure with wheat fields. Let me know what kind of monsters you'd want to see in that. As always, give me a like, a share, subscribe. If you really love what I do and you want to keep supporting me, head on over to my Patreon at Ninja Bunny Crafting. Give us a like and a support over there. You'll get 3 days early access to all of these videos, as well as, well, I do STL files. And if you're in our highest tier, you get a game ran by me every month, as well as a hand-painted mini that is custom made from Clockwork Creations. Anyway, guys, loved having you here. Get out there and craft something awesome.